Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm bringing to you my 2023 Lock the Box Chennai unboxing. Bookchor's Lock the Box is happening in Chennai between the 1st and 31st of May. So if you have not visited it yet, just go forward and try it because it is a great place for all book lovers and it is perfect for buying within a budget. I actually collaborated with them for another short or reel and it is already out in the channel and in my Instagram, which is linked below. But this video is not a part of the collaboration because I purchased this box on my own and I just want to unbox it and show all the books that I bought to you guys so that you can get an idea of what kind of books you can expect to find there. Now I bought the 3000 rupees box and within that I was able to fit in 25 books, and I should say except one or two of the 25 books, all other are books which I've been wanting to read for the past few years, and each of them easily cost 300 to 400 rupees per book on Amazon. So it was an absolute steal deal for me. Now I'll just open the box and show you all the books. So without any further ado, let's get to the books right away. So this is the 3000 rupees box, guys. It is super heavy because of all the books inside it. You just have to close the box flat. With that condition being satisfied, the number of books that you stuff inside the box are completely yours. So I'm just going to pick out every book and talk about them to you. I'm going to start this unboxing with a book that I bought just because it is like a format for every one of the Lock the Box purchases that I've done so far over the years, and it is a book by Stephen King, which is Duma. I've purchased at least one Stephen King book each and every time I've purchased books from Lock the Box. When it comes to the live sale, it has happened each and every time, and this time was not an exception. I found a few books which I was interested in reading from him, but the conditions of them were not that great. This one was good, so I just went forward and grabbed it, even though it is just a paperback. It is very huge and the spine is a bit broken, but it's okay because it is still intact and the entire condition of the book is good. Here we basically follow our main character who moves into this very lonely island in order to escape from his life. And after he gets into the island, what he does is he starts painting in order to just escape from the thoughts that are going on in his head itself. And once he starts painting, what happens is the island in which he has moved into starts communicating with him by some way. And as he keeps on painting, this communication between the island and him through the paintings gets strengthened continuously. How he is going to deal with these paintings and the communication that is happening between him and the island is the actual premise of this book. And just like any other Stephen King book, this also feels very peculiar and has a darker layer just in the simple plot itself. It is quite big, so I know that it is going to be quite slow and it will take a lot of time for me to read, just like any of the other unread Stephen King books that I have on my shelf. So if you've read Duma before, please do let me know down in the comments how it is and what are all these Stephen King specific things that I can expect from it. The next book is one I grabbed without even seeing the title because I saw the author's name in the spine, and it is One True Love by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read only 3 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books before. The first one is best if you ask me, and it is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. After that I read Malibu Rising and then Daisy Jones and the Six. I did not like Daisy Jones and the Six, and I have talked about it in some videos last year, but I'm going to reread it because I want to watch the show. And this is one of her earlier works in which we follow a couple who have been sweethearts from school, and what happens is out of nowhere when the male character goes on a flight, he just goes missing and there's no contact with him at all. And a female main character tries to move away from the grief that she is facing, and she comes out of that phase in her life and she is engaged to another person. What happens on a dinner one day is out of nowhere she gets a call, and the person who's talking on the phone is the lover from her past life whom she thinks is dead and not alive anymore because there has been no trace of him at all. Now she doubts whether the love that she has for either of the two men is real and if there is actually one true love out there. I can see that the romance in this book is going to be just as good in any of her other books, and I want to see how this main character has been written by the author. You can expect me to read this pretty soon. The next one is a super popular science fiction book, and it has also been adapted into a movie which is also a great hit. I've read neither the book nor watched the movie. So the book is The Martian by Andi Weir. I'm not sure whether to pronounce him as Weir or Weir, so forgive me if I'm doing it wrong. I want to read this book because I want to read the other book by the author, which is Project Hail Mary, but I want to read this one first before going into that. That's why I have not read it yet. So in this book, we basically follow our main character who is a part of this team of astronauts who have gone to Mars for the first time and done some experiments there. But because of a storm which happens in Mars, all the other teammates think that this person has been stranded and he's not alive anymore, and the team just leaves Mars, leaving him alone there without knowing. So obviously the problem for our main character right now is that he cannot send a signal back to Earth in order to start a rescue mission in order to save him from Mars. And even if they do, it's going to take a lot of time and he has not many resources in order to keep himself alive until he can be rescued by his team from Earth. I know that many of you people have read the book as well as watched the movie, so I just want to get to this book as soon as I can because I know that it's huge out there. The next one is also another book which I just bought because I saw the name of the author and not the title when I purchased the book, and it is The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt last year, and I should say I fell deeply in love with that book. I love it so much that I want to reread it over and over and over again, but I've not done it yet because I have so many other books on my physical TBR already. So when I just saw the name of this author on the shelf, I just wanted to grab the book. I don't care whether it is good or not, I just want to read this book because of her writing, okay? I know that I can trust Donna Tartt's writing completely because The Secret History was her debut novel, and in that itself, the amount of atmospheric build-up and the layers that she gave to her character were just phenomenal. In this book, we follow a main character who's a 12-year-old girl, and she does not live in a very normal family. Her family is deeply traumatized because of the death of her brother who was murdered 12 years back. Just in order to get out of that kind of slog and runt and grief, and not to just fix her family, she starts to go forward and investigate the murder of her brother by her own means. What starts out as a child's game later develops into a very dark mystery. This gives me kind of a crime thriller vibe, so I have really high expectations for this one because I trust Donna Tartt so much. Also, see the cover of this book, it has a cavity here, and if I open the cover, the end paper is like this. The next one is a thriller, and it is also by a super popular author inside the genre, and it is Digital Fortress by Dan Brown. I've read only 2 of the 6 books inside the Robert Langdon series. The first book that I read was Angels and Demons, and I read it in 2019, and then in 2020 I read The Lost Symbol. I have the Da Vinci Code and Inferno on my shelf, but I've not gotten to them yet. I just wanted to add this to my collection, and if I'm not wrong, I just have Origin left in this series which I've not bought from any other source, and all of these books I've bought only from Lock the Box sales. I'm not that particular about the plot of Digital Fortress because I know that it's going to be very convoluted just like any of the other Dan Brown books, and once I start reading this, I know that I'll be going into a hole and I'll just stay inside the book for a few days, so it will definitely take a good amount of time for me to just start reading this book itself. And I've heard that this book happens partly in the US, partly in Spain, and partly in Japan, so I think that's going to be pretty interesting. Let's just wait and see. The next one is the first book inside an Indian sci-fi thriller series, and it is The Hidden Hindu by Akshat Gupta. I've been wanting to read the series ever since the beginning of this year because the last book inside the series just dropped in May or April, I don't remember properly, but I know that the entire series is out right now and I want to read it pretty soon. So when I found the first book inside the trilogy as a new copy in the sale, I just went forward and grabbed it. It is also a very tiny book. Here we follow our main character Prithvi, who's actually in search of this mysterious Aghori named Om Shastri, and the thing about Om Shastri is that he's been held by these people inside this very high-tech facility, and the reason why he is actually held like that is because Om Shastri is saying that he has witnessed all the 4 yugas in Hindu mythology and he has been living through all of them, which means that he has survived the Ramayana and Mahabharata and seen them happen. But we don't know why Prithvi is actually searching for Om Shastri. But if what Om Shastri says is true, it also means that there are so many other immortals who are actually living in between us normal human beings. If the general population gets to know this, will we be able to take it or not is the actual plot of the series. Since the first book is also very short, if I end up liking it, I'll definitely buy the other 2 books and binge them also. Let's just wait and see how it is going to go. The next one is a children's classic, and it is Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. I have been wanting to read this classic also for the past few years, and I have said multiple times that I'm not that much into classics. I've been trying to get myself into reading classics this year. I bought this in specific because it is a children's classic and it is also very short in length. Here we follow a main character, Black Beauty, who's a horse that we see on the cover, and Black Beauty has been grown up in this very rich mansion by these rich people. But what happens suddenly is he is sold to a poorer family, and after he's being sold, the life that he lived with the rich family is not the same as he lives with the poor family right now, and he has to work hard a lot. So basically we are just going to deal with the thoughts of animals in this book, and it is also written for children, so it must be handled in a proper way in order to make it right. I know that this is very popular also, so I'm just going to try and read this as soon as I can, and I don't think it will take much time for me to read. The next book is also by an author whose writing that I've fallen in love with more than one time, and it is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I wanted to get a good looking edition of this book, and I searched a lot for it because multiple copies of this one are available, but not even one edition of this book that was available there was good at all. When it comes to the cover design, it just had people on it, so I just went forward with this because this looked better than all the others for my eyes. I'm not going to be able to properly summarize the plot of this book to you guys, so I'm just going to read it from the back cover. It is an easy plot only, but I don't think I'll be explaining it properly to you. Anna is not sick, but she might as well be. By age 13, she has undergone countless surgeries, transfusions, and injections to help her sister Kate fight leukemia. Anna was born for this purpose, her parents tell her, which is why they love her even more. But now she can't help but wonder what her life would be like if it weren't tied to her sisters. And so she makes a decision that for most at any age would be too difficult to bear, and sues her parents for the rights to her own body. And I always like how Jodi Picoult plays with morality in her stories, so I'm definitely pumped to read this one. The next book has a very long title, so I'm not sure whether I'll be able to drop it down here or not. And the book is The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. So in this story, we basically follow a 100-year-old man who climbs out of the window and disappears from the old age home that he is living in. And this too happens on his birthday itself, because many people have gathered not to celebrate his birthday, but he just escapes from there because he does not want to live there anymore, since he thinks that it's just making him feel older rather than just living the life that he wants to live. I know that this book is very popular, but I've not heard many people talking about it on Booktube, so I just want to give it a read as soon as I can. The next one is also another first book inside a YA fantasy series, and this is also another book which I grabbed just because I saw the author's name, and only after seeing the author's name I even saw the title of the book, and it is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I've read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor before, and it's not like I like Strange the Dreamer, I love it, so that's why I just went forward and grabbed this because I want to read the series, and I know that each and every book inside this trilogy costs around 500 to 600 rupees on Amazon as paperbacks itself. I don't care when I buy the second and third books inside the series and finish reading it. I just went forward and bought it because it was available just like that for me, and it is also in great condition. In this one we follow our main character Karau, who's living kind of a double life, in which during the daytime she is a 17-year-old art student in Prague, and in the night time she is kind of this helper for this monstrous creature whom she does not like that much, but he is the closest thing that she has to a family. It has been a very long time since she started living this double life, but what happens all of a sudden is the doorway between our world and this other world called Elsewhere is closing, and she has to choose whether she wants to live here or in the other world. I'm like 95% sure that she is going to select the other world and get in there. Otherwise, this will not be a fantasy story that has been popular for these many years. I don't have any expectations for this one because I know that I'm going to enjoy the author's writing and the way in which she builds the world. So this is also one book which you can expect me reading pretty soon. The next two books are the first two books inside a very old yet popular YA fantasy series, and they are the first two books inside the Abhorsen trilogy. They are Sabriel and Lirael. I found only the first book first, and later on when I had room for 2 or 3 more books inside the box, I found the second one also. So in this series we basically follow our main character Sabriel, and she is the daughter of this very popular and powerful magician named Abhorsen, after whom the series itself is named. And Sabriel is kept away from this place called the Old Kingdom by a wall because it has very powerful magic, and her father does not want her to indulge inside that magic because she has some specific powers which may be unleashed. And from all the things that I've heard about this series, death magic or necromancy has been dealt really well in this series. I have seen death magic done in some of the series that I've read so far, and it has not been convincing at all for me. Since this is kind of a pioneer when it comes to that trope inside fantasy, I think it must be good. Let's just wait and see how it's going to go. The next one is a literary fiction book, and it is also super popular over the past 3 years I think, and it is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I've heard only great things about this book so far. And here we follow our main character Kaya, who's living in this very remote rural town, and she is this person called the Marsh Girl since she lives in the marsh, and she has not been a big deal for the people inside that place at all because she has not done anything that is that much worthwhile. But what happens out of nowhere is one of these very handsome men inside that place is found as a dead body inside the marsh, and people start blaming her for his death, and because of this Kaya becomes popular. And during this time only what has happened is Kaya, who's usually by nature a very lonely person, is courted by 2 different men from the same town, and after this death happens, the difference that she faces in her life from the loneliness that she normally has is getting affected very badly, and how she's going to deal with it and also the town as a whole is the actual plot of this book. I have not heard anything intense about this book just because I did not want to get spoiled, but one of my friends from work has said that this is a really good book. I trust their word, and because of that itself I'm going to read this very soon. The next one is also one very popular book by a very popular author, and this book is much older than me itself in age, and I think it's been 30 years since it was published. The book is Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. I tried to get the synopsis of this book from somewhere inside the book, but trust me, it is not available anywhere at all. But the cover says that it is the Booker of Booker prizes, and it won the prize in 1993. I have read a few Booker prize winners in the past, and I should say that even though I have not liked all the stories, I have loved the writing when it comes to each and every one of the winners of that award. I could have looked up for the synopsis of the book somewhere on the internet, but I decided not to because I want to get surprised completely without knowing anything and reading the book. I know that it is going to take a lot of time for me to read this book because the font inside the book is super tiny, so I'm sure that it is one book that is going to make me take my sweet time reading it in order to understand it properly. Let's just wait and see how it's going to go. The next one is a thriller book, and it is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I just found the spine of this book very intriguing, and when I read the synopsis it was even more intriguing for me, so I just went forward and bought it. It is a very short synopsis, yet I don't think I'll be able to express it properly to you guys because it is very vague in its tone, so I'm just going to read it from the back cover. I know that many of you guys have read this book and many of you have been wanting me to read more thrillers also. That's the reason why I picked this up. So if you've read the book, please do let me know down in the comments what kind of thriller it is and whether it is very graphic or not, so that I can make my mind before I get into it, because I tend to get a bit more anxious when it comes to reading thrillers. Be careful who you let in. In a large house in London's fashionable Chelsea, a baby is awake in her cot. Well fed and cared for, she is happily waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen lie 3 decomposing corpses. Close to them is a hastily scrawled note. They have been dead for several days. Who has been looking after the baby and where did they go? That sounds super ultra dark in tone for me, and I don't think I'll be able to handle it well if I don't read it in a time when I'm in for taking dark content. So I have to time this properly. Let's just wait and see. The next one is one book which I've been wanting to read for the past few years, because ever since I saw the cover of this book for the first time, it has stuck in my brain very deeply, and it is Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers, which is a literary fiction book which also has a thriller element to it. Here we follow a main character who's a journalist, and she's been very disappointed with her life because it is not that much fun or has any more up and downs at all. During this time, what happens is a woman contacts her in the office and tells her that the daughter that she has right now is a birth of a virgin birth that she gave to her. So she starts investigating the case and tries to find out whether the woman is a fraud or not. And as the investigation goes on, several things are unraveled, and because of this she starts developing relationships with different people. Seeing the cover of the book also does not reveal anything much to me, but just look at the cover, how beautiful it is. I'm super excited to get to this. The next one is a historical fiction book that happens during the Holocaust. I've actually tried reading this book twice before, and both times I was not able to continue reading it because the setup of the book was very depressing, as it is supposed to be. I tried it both times on my Kindle because it was available for free on Prime Reading, and it is also a very popular historical fiction novel, and it is The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. I also know that it has a companion novel that is written by the same author. Here we basically follow the life of this tattooist inside the concentration camps at Auschwitz, and the story is narrated with him as the main character and also at times from his point of view. I read like 30% of the book for the first time that I read it, and it was very depressing for me. I was not also mentally in the right place to read it then. It's a very short book, but I think it will take a lot of toll on my mental health when I read it, so I want to time this book also properly if I have to read it and experience it completely. Again, another book which I've heard nothing bad about at all from anyone that has read it, so I have really high expectations for this one since I've also started reading it twice before. Let's wait and see when I'm going to get to this. The next one is also another book by the author whom I talked about a few minutes back in the video, and it is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, which I think is an award-winning book by the author. And I also know that this is not the favorite when it comes to the reader of her, and I've heard not that great things about this book. But because it's Donna Tartt, I want to give this book a try because I know that her writing in this book will be good for some reason in my brain. And I've heard that this is a very sad story to begin with, and it just gets sadder and sadder as we keep on reading it. Again, I'm sure that this is going to take a lot of time for me to read since it's a huge book again. I just want it to be good. The next one is a short story collection, and it is Reading Aloud by Chris Paling, which is a collection of short stories that happen based on real incidents that actually happened in a library in Britain, and the book is written by the librarian who is in charge of the library. Just seeing that as a synopsis for the book itself made me want to buy it because I want to read books that are about books, and if those things do not happen inside a library, I cannot imagine where they can happen. That's all I know about this book, and just for that reason itself I want to read it as soon as I can. The next one is a literary fiction again, and it is Less by Andrew Sean Greer. It is also a Pulitzer Prize winner, so I think I will like this book for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because I read Interpreter of Maladies last year, which is also another Pulitzer Prize winner, and I just completely fell in love with that book. Here we follow a main character who is completely depressed, and because of this he takes a break from work and he has to travel across the world. And the reason why he is doing this in specific is because he has gotten this invitation from his ex saying that he is getting married and he is invited to the wedding. I think this will be kind of a eat, pray, love kind of journey, but mainly focusing on the depression of the character. I've heard that the mental health representation inside this book is really well done by the author. Because of all these reasons, I do have very high expectations for this one. Next one is also a very popular YA contemporary book, and it is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And again, another book which put the author on the map. I've read only 2 stories by Rainbow Rowell before. The first one is Carry On, and the other one is a short story whose name I don't remember. But I loved the tone of both of those stories very much, and I liked the way in which presented her characters and kept everything in a very mellow way. Here we follow our main character after getting into college. She's a very lonely person, and she is so much into writing fan fiction, especially romance fan fiction. And what happens is, out of nowhere she gets this romantic interest in her life and romance becomes a part of her life too. Only after that she realizes that romance has a completely different side from what she is used to from writing her fanfiction, and she is experiencing the whole thing in her college life itself. I don't know whether this is young adult or new adult because the main character is in college. It is a big book, but I think it will be very light in its tone. Let's just wait and see. The next one is another thriller book, and it is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, if I'm not pronouncing the author's name wrong. Again, another book which I was very interested to read after reading the synopsis, and I'm not going to be able to properly narrate it to you guys, so I'm just going to read the synopsis from the back cover. This book was actually selected by my brother because he read the synopsis and found that interesting and he thought that I might enjoy it, so he just added it into the box. And when we just sorted through the books, this just sounded very interesting to me, so I just went on adding it to the box. I'll read the synopsis from the back cover for you. Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. So begins this exquisite novel about a Chinese-American family living in 1970s small-town Ohio. Lydia is the favorite child of Marilyn and James Lee, and her parents are determined that she will fulfill the dreams they were unable to pursue. But when Lydia's body is found in the local lake, the delicate balancing act that has been keeping the Lee family together is destroyed, tumbling them all into chaos. So this is basically going to be a murder mystery in which the family is going to try and find the murderer of their child. So that sounds very dark to me in its tone itself, and I can feel that it is going to be emotional in its tone because a family is completely involved. I don't know anything else about this book, so if you have read it, please do let me know down in the comments if there are any trigger warnings for it. The next one is a very short yet very interesting self-help book, and it is Yes or No by Dr. Spencer Johnson. I bought this book because I have read two other books by the author which are also very short just like this one, and they are actually self-help books that are narrated through a story to us, so that the concept of the book actually sticks to us very well. The first book was Who Moved My Cheese, and the next one is Out of the Maze. After that one I'm just going to read this one by the author, and it is about decision making and how we can tune ourselves properly in order to make proper decisions quickly without getting into a lot of confusion. I have found the first two books by this author very helpful, so I think this one will also be helpful in that tone. It's a very short book, so I think I'll be reading this pretty soon. The last two books I actually bought that are part of the box are hardcovers, and they are the only two hardcovers inside this entire book haul that I purchased, and they are the second and third books inside the Girl Online series by Zoe Sugg. I have read and have the first book inside the series, which is Girl Online with Me. I read that in 2020 and I like the tone of the book very much. The author is a very popular YouTuber and blogger. I have not heard about her at all, but I did enjoy the first book a lot, so I just wanted to try the second and third books. Since they are available in hardcover, I just went forward and grabbed them. The second one is Girl Online on Tour, and the final one is Girl Online Going Solo. I don't know anything about these two books. I just saw them and I grabbed them, but I'm pretty sure that they'll be a good time for me. So those are all the books that I bought, guys, and these last final books are actually books that I got for my collaboration with them, and all 5 of them are hardcovers, and most of these are selections from my brother because he either wants to read them or he has read them and wants me to read them. Of these, the first one is the Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is a very popular rendition of the Bhagavad Gita in English, and my brother has read a lot about this one and he wants to read it. He also wants me to read it because he has heard really good things about it. He said that he'll be starting it this month. So once he finishes reading it and tells me his opinions about the book, I'll go forward and try the book also. It is pretty huge, and it is basically just the Bhagavad Gita and its meanings in English. I also know that it is very popular in the spiritual side of books, so I definitely want to try it. Next one is Good to Great by Jim Collins, which is a book about self-improvement in specific, and it also deals with how certain good companies have become great over the years and what are all the things that they have done internally in order to make themselves established on a bigger scale. It is actually just an experiment that was done by the author and his team over a few years, and all the results of that experiment are actually brought together in the single book for us. My brother has read this book as an audiobook and he said that it was really good and he wants me to try it. I'm also very interested in reading this kind of book, so I'll definitely read it very soon. The next one is a Japanese self-development book, and it is Kaizen by Masaki Imai. My brother has read another book based on Kaizen on Storytel, and he has said that that concept is very intriguing because it is just about making yourself better little by little each and every day in order to get to the level of fitness that you want to be in. It's a Japanese concept and it is something which happens gradually, not in a drastic way. I'm a person who hugely believes on the power of consistency and perseverance, so I think this book will interest me a lot and will also teach me a lot more things which I want to learn in that aspect. So we got this book. And at last we have another science fiction book which I picked, and this is actually a sequel to another very popular science fiction book by the same author, and it is The Lost World by Michael Crichton. I've read only one book by Michael Crichton so far, and it is Prey. I read it in 2021 and it was one of my favorite books from the year. I have not read Jurassic Park. I've only watched the movie since I'm a 90s kid, and I want to read the book and then go on for this one because those incredible movies were actually based on these books, and in order for the movies to be that great, the source material must have been super strong. I do like slow paced stories which are very detailed in their tone, so I think I will enjoy this one. So yes guys, those are all the books that I got in Lock the Box 2023 Chennai, and I hope that this video was useful at the same time enjoyable for you guys. If you did enjoy watching it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.